The Messerschmitt comes out of the sun like a streak of silver death. You're the tail gunner on Memphis Belle Jr., 25,000 feet over Germany, when the fighter materializes from nowhere. Your .50 caliber guns swing desperately toward the target, but the German pilot knows his business. His cannons light up like deadly fireworks, and 20mm shells tear through your B-17's fuselage like paper. The intercom crackles with screaming. Engine number 3 is burning. The navigator slumps over his charts, blood pooling beneath his maps. Through your tiny window, you see another B-17 explode in a ball of orange flame. 9 boys from Iowa who'll never see their 20th birthdays. You're on your 8th mission. You need 17 more to complete your tour and go home. But the mathematics of survival are brutal and unforgiving. For every 100 airmen who climb into heavy bombers over Europe, 70 will never walk on American soil again. Welcome to the deadliest job in the deadliest war in human history, flying strategic bombing missions over Nazi Germany, where the life expectancy of a crew could be measured in weeks, and death arrived at 300 miles per hour with German efficiency. By 1943, the Allied strategy is clear. Bomb Germany into submission. Destroy their factories, cripple their war machine, and break the will of their people. The theory sounds simple from the safety of Washington and London. The reality at 5 miles above enemy territory is a nightmare written in fire and falling aircraft. The 8th Air Force, based in England, flies the daylight missions. Wave after wave of B-17 flying fortresses, and B-24 Liberators cross the English Channel each morning, their bomb bays loaded with death for German industry. These are precision raids designed to hit specific targets with surgical accuracy. Ball-bearing factories in Schweinfurt, aircraft plants in Regensburg, submarine pens in Bremen. But precision comes at a price measured in young American lives. Unlike night bombing, where darkness provides some protection, daylight raids expose every aircraft to the full fury of German defenses. Luftwaffe fighters attack in coordinated waves. Flak guns fill the sky with black clouds of explosive death. Every mission becomes a running battle across hundreds of miles of hostile territory. The numbers tell the story with mathematical brutality. In 1943, bomber crews face a 70% casualty rate. This doesn't mean wounded, this means killed, missing, or captured. Of every 10 crews that begin the war, 7 will never see its end. The average life expectancy of a bomber crew member hovers around 11 missions. Considering that a complete tour requires 25 missions, most airmen are statistically dead before they're halfway finished. The aircraft themselves become flying targets. A B-17 Flying Fortress weighs 36,000 pounds when empty. Fully loaded with fuel, bombs, and ammunition, it lumbers through the sky at 180 miles per hour. Fast for 1943, but painfully slow when German fighters dive on you at twice that speed. The bombers rely on formation flying and defensive firepower for protection, turning the sky into a 3-dimensional battlefield where friend and foe fight at altitudes that would kill unprotected humans in minutes. Each bomber carries a crew of 10 men: pilot, co-pilot, navigator, bombardier, flight engineer, radio operator, and 4 gunners positioned throughout the aircraft. They're mostly kids, averaging 21 years old, who volunteered for the most dangerous duty the Army Air Forces could offer. Many had never been in an airplane before training. Most had never been more than 50 miles from their hometowns. Now they're flying into the teeth of the most sophisticated air defense system ever created, betting their lives that American industrial might can overcome German technological precision. Climbing into a B-17 Flying Fortress means entering a cramped aluminum coffin equipped with machine guns. The fuselage, barely 6 feet wide at its maximum, houses 10 men and their equipment in conditions that would make a submarine seem spacious. Every inch serves a purpose. There's no wasted space, no comfort zones, no escape from the constant noise, vibration, and bone-chilling cold. Your position determines your survival odds and your view of death. The pilot and co-pilot sit up front in a greenhouse of plexiglass that offers magnificent views and zero protection from fighter attacks. Behind them, the navigator hunches over charts in a compartment barely large enough for a man to sit upright. The bombardier lies prone in the nose, surrounded by glass. operating the top-secret Norden bomb site that can supposedly drop a bomb into a pickle barrel from 4 miles up. The gunners occupy the most exposed positions. The ball turret gunner curls up in a plexiglass sphere beneath the aircraft, suspended in space with nothing between him and the ground except thin air and gravity. The tail gunner crawls into the aircraft's rear section, isolated from the rest of the crew, watching for fighters approaching from behind. Wing gunners stand at open windows, firing 50 caliber machine guns while 180-mile-per-hour winds tear at their clothing. At 25,000 feet, the environment itself tries to kill you. Outside temperatures drop to 60 degrees below zero. Inside the unheated aircraft, your breath fogs instantly, saliva freezes. Exposed skin sticks to metal surfaces and tears away when you move. The oxygen masks that keep you alive also fog your goggles, limiting visibility when you need it most. The noise is overwhelming. 4 Wright Cyclone engines generate 1,200 horsepower each, creating a mechanical roar that makes communication impossible without the intercom system. When that system fails, and it often does, crew members communicate through hand signals and desperate gestures while fighting for their lives. Space restrictions mean you wear your parachute constantly, adding bulk to an already cramped environment. Moving through the aircraft requires crawling over bomb racks, ammunition boxes, and other crew members. The relief tube, your only option for urination during 10-hour missions, often freezes solid, forcing impossible choices between comfort and survival. Combat adds another layer of horror to an already nightmarish environment. Machine gun fire fills the aircraft with cordite smoke and hot brass casings. Flak explosions rock the plane with concussive force that rattles your teeth and blurs your vision. When fighters attack, tracer rounds streak past your head like deadly fireworks, while 20mm cannon shells punch holes through the fuselage. The psychological pressure is relentless. You're trapped in a machine that attracts every form of aerial destruction ever invented, flying straight and level toward targets that are defended by thousands of men whose only job is to kill you. There's nowhere to hide, nowhere to run, and no way out except forward through whatever hell waits ahead. Between missions, you don't rest. You count. Mission number 7 completed, 18 to go. Mission number 12 down, 13 left. Each number brings you theoretically closer to completion and statistically closer to death. Death comes for bomber crews in a dozen different forms, each more terrifying than the last. The sky over Germany becomes a 3-dimensional killing field where physics, technology, and human malice combine to create scenarios that defy survival. Fighter attacks represent the most immediate and personal threat. German pilots perfect their tactics through deadly trial and error, learning to exploit every weakness in bomber formations. The head-on attack proves most devastating. Focke-Wulf 190s and Messerschmitt 109s dive straight at bomber formations at combined closing speeds exceeding 400 miles per hour. Pilots have seconds to line up their shots before breaking away, but those seconds unleash hell. German fighters carry fearsome firepower. A single burst from a Focke-Wulf's 420mm cannons can tear a bomber's wing off or explode its fuel tanks instantly. Machine gun rounds punch through aluminum skin like needles through paper. When fighters attack from the sun or out of cloud cover, the first warning is often the sound of cannon shells exploding inside your aircraft. Anti-aircraft artillery, flak, turns the sky into a maze of black explosions. German 88mm guns fire shells programmed to explode at specific altitudes, filling the air with red-hot metal fragments traveling at lethal velocities. A flak field looks deceptively beautiful from a distance, black puffs of smoke dotting a blue sky like strange clouds. Up close, each puff represents thousands of steel fragments designed to shred aircraft and crew. Flak barrages force bombers to fly straight and level through predetermined killing zones. Evasive action ruins bombing accuracy, so crews endure minutes of sustained bombardment while maintaining course and speed. The psychological torture of flying deliberately into a wall of exploding metal breaks strong men. Some crews crack completely, abandoning formation to escape the barrage and exposing themselves to fighter attacks. Mechanical failure kills without warning or mercy. Wright Cyclone engines, pushed to their limits at extreme altitude, fail catastrophically. Propellers break loose and slice through fuselages. Hydraulic systems freeze, leaving aircraft unable to lower landing gear or operate flight controls. Oxygen systems malfunction at altitudes where unconsciousness comes in seconds and death follows minutes later. Fire represents every airman's worst nightmare. Aviation fuel burns with incredible intensity at altitude, where wind fans flames and limited oxygen makes firefighting nearly impossible. When a bomber catches fire, the crew faces an agonizing choice: bail out over enemy territory and face capture, or stay with the aircraft and burn alive. Many choose to ride the burning plane down rather than become prisoners. Weather becomes an invisible enemy that kills more efficiently than German defenses. Thunderstorms at 25,000 feet generate turbulence that can tear aircraft apart. Ice accumulation adds tons of weight while disrupting airflow over wings and control surfaces. Cloud cover eliminates navigation references, causing entire formations to become lost over enemy territory with limited fuel. The jet stream, unknown to meteorologists in 1943, creates headwinds that can add hours to mission times. Bombers that encounter unexpected jet stream conditions find themselves running out of fuel hundreds of miles from base, forcing crews to ditch in the North Sea or bail out over occupied Europe. Friendly fire incidents add bitter irony to an already deadly environment. Formation flying at high altitude makes aircraft identification difficult. Nervous gunners sometimes fire on friendly fighters. Bombers occasionally drop ordnance on other bombers flying below them. Radio failures prevent coordination, leading to mid-air collisions during formation assembly. High-altitude physiology creates its own category of threats. Oxygen deprivation causes euphoria, confusion, and poor judgment, deadly conditions when split-second decisions determine survival. Decompression from battle damage can kill instantly or cause gradual unconsciousness. Frostbite claims fingers and toes needed to operate equipment and weapons. The psychological toll accumulates like radiation exposure, invisible but deadly. Combat fatigue manifests differently in each crew member. Some develop thousand-yard stares and stop communicating. Others become hypervigilant, jumping at every sound. Many suffer complete nervous breakdowns, requiring sedation or removal from flight status. Perhaps most insidious is the mathematics of survival itself. Each mission survived doesn't improve your odds. It simply moves you closer to the statistical certainty of being killed. Flying Mission 15 doesn't make you safer. It makes you more likely to die on Mission 16. The law of averages becomes a death sentence written in probability theory. Formation integrity provides the only defense against this overwhelming array of threats, but formations themselves become targets. German fighters concentrate on stragglers and damaged aircraft. Single bombers rarely survive encounters with determined fighter attacks. Staying in formation means safety. Falling behind means death. Every system failure, every equipment malfunction, every moment of crew coordination breakdown creates vulnerability that experienced enemies exploit with ruthless efficiency. In this environment, perfection becomes a survival requirement, and perfection proves impossible to maintain across 25 missions. October 14, 1943. Black Thursday. The target is Schweinfurt, home to Germany's ball-bearing factories. Intelligence claims that destroying these facilities will cripple German war production. What intelligence doesn't mention is that Schweinfurt lies 500 miles inside Germany, beyond the range of escort fighters, defended by the most concentrated flak batteries in the Reich. You're the waist gunner aboard Hell's Angels, part of the 291 B-17 launching from English airfields in broad daylight. This is the second raid on Schweinfurt in 2 months. The first one cost 60 bombers. Today's mission promises to be worse. The formation assembles over England like an aerial armada. Silver bombers stretching to the horizon, their contrails writing death sentences across the morning sky. But you notice gaps where planes should be. Mechanical failures, last-minute aborts, crews who simply couldn't face another mission into hell. As you cross the English Channel, P-47 Thunderbolt fighters provide escort. But everyone knows the math. The Thunderbolts have enough fuel to reach the German border. Beyond that point, the bombers fly alone into the teeth of the Luftwaffe. The first fighters appear over Belgium, yellow-nosed Messerschmitt 109s climbing fast from below. Then Focke-Wulf 190s diving from above. Within minutes, the sky fills with German fighters, more than anyone has ever seen in one place. They attack in coordinated waves, focusing on lead bombers first. Your formation leader, Liberty Run, takes a direct hit from a head-on attack. The aircraft simply disintegrates. One moment it's there, the next it's falling debris and parachutes. 9 men gone in the time it takes to blink. The intercom crackles with desperate calls. Fighters, 12 o'clock high. Engine fire on Sweet Caroline. Yankee Doodle is going down. I count 6 shoots. Your .50 caliber gun hammers against your shoulder as you fire at targets moving too fast to track. Hot brass casings rain down inside the fuselage. The smell of cordite and aviation fuel fills your nostrils. Through the chaos, you watch bomber after bomber fall from formation. Then, the flak begins. German gunners have had months to prepare for this moment. The sky over Schweinfurt erupts in black explosions so dense, they form a solid wall of steel fragments. The formation flies straight into this barrage because turning away means mission failure, and mission failure means this slaughter accomplished nothing. Flak bursts rock Hell's Angels like a ship in a storm. Metal fragments punch through the fuselage with sounds like deadly hail. The tail gunner stops responding on the intercom. When you look back, his position is a tangle of twisted metal and blood. Somehow, impossibly, you reach the target. The bombardier releases his load through breaks in the flak, watching bombs fall toward factories that seem insignificant compared to the price being paid to destroy them. But there's no time to observe results. German fighters mass for another assault as the formation turns for home. The return journey becomes a running battle across 500 miles of hostile territory. Damaged bombers struggle to maintain formation speed. Wounded crew members collapse at their positions. Aircraft with dead engines fall behind and disappear under swarms of fighters. Hell's Angels takes hit after hit. The number 3 engine seizes and starts smoking. Hydraulic fluid streams from the bomb bay. The aircraft lurches and shudders with each flak burst, but somehow stays airborne. By the time you cross the English Channel, the formation has been decimated. Of the 291 bombers that set out that morning, only 229 returned to base. 62 aircraft and 600 crew members are simply gone, shot down, captured, or killed over Germany. The damage assessment reveals the true cost of Black Thursday. The 8th Air Force has lost 26% of its attacking force in a single day. Some bomb groups suffer 50% casualties. Entire squadrons are wiped out. The 100th Bomb Group, already nicknamed the Bloody 100th for its losses, ceases to exist as an effective fighting unit. Medical personnel work through the night treating wounded survivors. Aircraft mechanics count bullet holes and assess damage. Intelligence officers debrief shell-shocked crews who've witnessed the systematic destruction of their comrades. The mission accomplished its tactical objective. Schweinfurt's ball-bearing production drops significantly. But the strategic cost proves unsustainable. At this rate of loss, the 8th Air Force will destroy itself before it destroys Germany. Black Thursday marks the turning point when Allied commanders finally accept what air crews have known all along. Unescorted daylight bombing is a form of organized suicide. The numbers from Black Thursday force a brutal reckoning with reality. In a single day, the 8th Air Force loses more aircraft than it can replace in a week. The 26% casualty rate means that, statistically, no crew completing a 25-mission tour could expect to survive. The mathematics of attrition have finally become impossible to ignore. But the sacrifice of those 600 airmen on October 14th catalyzes the changes that will ultimately win the air war. By early 1944, long-range P-51 Mustang fighters arrive in sufficient numbers to escort bombers all the way to target and back. The game changes overnight. German fighters, once able to attack bombers with impunity, now face deadly American escorts throughout their own airspace. The casualty statistics tell the broader story of the bomber war's evolution. In 1943, bomber crew casualty rates approach 70%, meaning 7 out of 10 airmen will be killed, wounded, or captured before completing their tours. By 1945, improved tactics, better escort coverage, and declining German fighter strength Reduce this figure to around 40%, still horrifically high, but survivable enough to maintain operations. Of the 210,000 Americans who served in bomber crews during the war, 26,000 were killed in action and another 28,000 were wounded. These numbers represent more than aircraft losses. They represent the systematic destruction of an entire generation of young men who volunteered for the deadliest duty their country could offer. The psychological toll on survivors proves as devastating as the physical casualties. "I still wake up in cold sweats," wrote former B-24 navigator Harold Morrison in 1947. "I dream about the sound of fighters coming out of the sun, the smell of burning fuel, the screams on the intercom when we got hit. 25 missions might get you home, but they never really let you leave." Post-war studies reveal the full extent of combat trauma among bomber veterans. Rates of anxiety, depression, and what would later be recognized as PTSD run significantly higher than among other veterans. Many survivors struggle with survivor's guilt, haunted by memories of crews who didn't make it home. The randomness of survival, why their aircraft survived when others didn't, defies rational explanation and torments rational minds. Yet the strategic bombing campaign achieves its ultimate objectives. German industrial production peaks in 1944 despite 2 years of sustained bombing, but the effort required to maintain that production diverts massive resources from other military priorities. Fighter aircraft and pilots needed at the front lines defend German airspace instead. Raw materials go to repair bomb damage rather than build weapons. More importantly, the bomber offensive forces Germany to fight a two-front air war. Luftwaffe fighters defending German cities can't support ground operations in France or Russia. The Allied air campaign doesn't just destroy German industry, it fragments German strategy and forces impossible choices about resource allocation. The technological innovations developed under the pressure of bomber warfare revolutionize aviation. Radar systems, navigation aids, pressurized cabins, and jet engines all advance rapidly due to wartime necessity. The modern airline industry builds directly on foundations laid by men who died over German cities. Perhaps most significantly, the bomber crews prove that strategic air power can achieve decisive results when properly applied. Their sacrifice establishes air superiority as a prerequisite for modern military operations, a lesson that shapes military doctrine for generations. The cost was measured in young lives. The victory was measured in the freedom those lives purchased. The next time you see a commercial airliner climbing into the sky, remember that its flight path was paid for in blood over German cities 80 years ago. Every safety protocol, every navigation system, every pressurized cabin traces its lineage back to young men who climbed into aluminum coffins and flew into hell because someone had to. 70% never came home. That's not a statistic. It's a generation of farm boys from Iowa, factory workers from Detroit, and college students from California who volunteered for the most dangerous job in the deadliest war in human history. They climbed to 25,000 feet in unpressurized aircraft, flew through walls of flak and swarms of fighters, and dropped their bombs with mathematical precision because freedom demanded that level of sacrifice. In small-town cemeteries across America, headstones mark graves that hold no bodies, just memories of boys who fell from the sky over places they'd never heard of before the war. Their aircraft became their tombs, scattered across the German countryside in twisted wreckage that spoke to the price of victory. They didn't die as heroes. They died as young men who refused to let evil triumph, one mission at a time, until the math finally worked in freedom's favor.